572s. It's a little different than the Daily Driver Series or Hot Rod Series in the respect that it's a 572-inch tall deck big block, but we've had a under hood height clearance issue. You know, a lot of these, they don't fit under the hood of most cars with the big single plane and a Dominator. So we came up with this dual plane intake from Brodix, and what's really kind of trick about this intake is if you measure it, it's a little over 5 inches tall from the China wall to the top of the carb flange, and that's about 2 inches shorter than any other intake out there, and that's significant. So what we noticed is on a lot of these cars where we're putting the big single planes in it, like for example on a 69 Camaro with a 2-inch cowl, you'd end up with the carburetor with you know, 2-inch air cleaner with a 2-inch drop base, and the top of the air cleaner was this far from the carb. So on the dyno it would look good, but when you put it in the car, you're down 100 horsepower and you can't figure out why you're down so much horsepower. So Bill Hannes, the owner of this car, has a 69 Camaro with a 2-inch cowl, so we came up with this for him. And he wanted something that's going to live a long time. He wouldn't have to adjust the valves, get good valve train life. So we put a smaller hydraulic roller in it. We've got a dual plane. We ended up making these custom spacers so we can fit a standard deck intake manifold onto a tall deck manifold, because nobody has a tall deck dual plane intake. So it's kind of a unique build. It really is responsive, and it has torque, as I'll show you, just right off the bottom. 2100 RPM, it's making 477 foot-pounds of torque.
I mean, that's like 800 to 900 RPM. It sounds really mean, you know? And for a small hydraulic roller with a dual plane and you know, something you can drive every day, it's a nasty little deal. Now check the throttle response. I mean, it's nice. It's something special. We'll do a little tug on it.
So for all you guys out there with a 6-speed car and you don't want to, you just sit there in the same gear just into the next, you know, make a lane change, whatever. We ended up making 685 foot-pounds of torque and 645 horsepower. So it's respectable. It's not a crazy horsepower deal, but it's just an extremely broad, crazy torque. But we put our little Nelson spin on it, so it sounds crazy. Like you pull up to the light with somebody and they know you're here. It has a crazy double hit idle, and it really came out good. We ended up brushing the heads and the intake, and I think it looks pretty sharp. And it fits in between the single plane deal. For if you want a 572, you want it to, you know, get under the hood, you could put a 3-inch cleaner on this sucker, and, you know, go down even another inch or 2.5-inch cleaner, and you're still going to have room to fit under the hood. We also did this extreme lid air cleaner. That way, you know, you're getting CFM from the top and on all the sides. So at any rate, let's fire it up and let you guys listen to it. And I think it's a neat alternative for some of the other big block stuff out there.
I want to show you something that's even more special. I'm going to do a low RPM pull, just to show you how much torque it makes down low. So this is something that you don't see every day. 480 foot-pounds of torque at 2100 RPM. So basically off idle with 620 foot-pounds by 3000, 688 foot-pounds by 3900, and you know, holding 87 all the way to 4500. So in the car on the street, this thing's going to be just an explosion waiting to happen. So it is something to show off and to show customers that you have an option like this.
Okay, so you see that we keep on hurting a dyno, and you know, obviously the motor we just tested is something that is absolutely no problem to test with the standard brake. Matter of fact, the standard brake is just, I think, probably the best in the industry. But now we're in stratospheric horsepower levels where we're, you know, 2,000 plus foot-pounds early, and it comes on hard. So we've been having all sorts of issues with keeping it together. Like, for example, you can see this is a water brake, what we're using. You can see how we've actually split the brake in half. Well, we've actually cracked it all the way in half. You know, another thing is that originally when we started having issues, these were pressed on a stainless shaft. And so it was just a serrated stainless shaft. So we were basically stripping these off the stainless shaft. So then we went ahead and made a steel version of it, which we pinned in, and that lasted, you know, another couple hundred foot-pounds, but then that stripped the serrations of the deal. So beyond that, we were blowing water hoses, we were activating the servo valves early to get everything to actually live, stripping cogs, you name it. So what we came up with is we actually went ahead and got a piece of billet, we water jet a big chunk, you know, and then started, actually, crazy enough, we actually didn't CNC mill it. We ended up putting it on our rotary table on our manual mill, and we actually made new rotors out of billet. And it really, so far, is holding up to the abuse. And it's kind of neat, and I'm kind of proud of it, showing people maybe that have been experiencing the same problems, that this is a really nice cheap fix. Rather than just buying a new brake, this is a hell of a lot cheaper. So at any rate, you can kind of see the beginnings of what we were doing here, and this is kind of a scrap piece here because we had some of the cuts off. But I'll show you some photos of it. So the nice thing about the dyno that we do have is actually a dual brake. It's not a single brake. So you've got two of these bad boys in there. And that's why this dyno grabs so well. It's just, you know, what they designed it for, it does exactly right, but we're way beyond the limitations of what they've designed it for. Then we went ahead and anodized it and sealed it, and you know, so far it's really working out great.